So in this video, I'm going to go through the BBC giving the world a false account of what was taking place in a situation, which is exactly what they did with regard to the Formula One 2021 World Championship, which is what I've been trying to expose for 4 years, which people aren't interested in, but you should be interested because this is what they do with everything that impacts us in life, and it affects people's lives. Before I get into it, one of the things which maybe a few of you are maybe slightly confused about, you shouldn't be because I will make it clear when things happen, is you were getting projections from the troll boys, those people that like to come here to try and disrupt, because they like projecting things here to try and discourage other people from understanding the truth. That's the kind of cunts that they are. But there's a projection that I've been to court already over the Abu Dhabi thing and it was thrown out. Nope, not at all. Okay. The reality of the situation is, with the information that I've presented on this channel alone, that is sufficient to demonstrate the truth of the situation and that it was a criminal contrivance. That should be enough to secure criminal convictions for the perpetrators. The reality is, though, is that what we're up against is a corrupt system. Okay, the entire construct of the so-called justice system, which is also missold, is entirely corrupt and entirely designed that way. So what I need to demonstrate to you is what it's all about, which I'm going to do via videos. What I've actually been to court over was where I've been personally impacted by a situation not related to Formula One. And I was the victim of somebody else's malevolence towards myself, and I needed to seek the intervention of the courts to protect myself and my interests. So I submitted a court application for my protection. The court failed because you realise that the judges that they hand your cases to are not qualified. Some judges, in fact, they all are this, they are essentially just jumped up solicitors, which firstly they begin as deputy district judges, where they're part-time judges, judging for between 15 to 50 days a year, acting as a judge. They're novices, they're inexperienced, they don't know what they're doing, and all they will have needed to do to be gifted that position of judge is be a lawyer for 5 years. So to be a lawyer, you've got to get a law degree, which is not a difficult degree to obtain. You've got to do a year at law school where they teach you the game of back and forth. And then you operate as a lawyer for 5 years. Now, operating as a lawyer, that doesn't mean you stand for justice. What it means is somebody comes to you with a problem, whether that's you're the victim of a situation or whether that's somebody has sent me a letter from their solicitor accusing me of something, which maybe you did to them. Maybe you're the perpetrator, but you're getting a lawyer to try and make you an argument which absolves you of consequence for your wrongdoing. So these lawyers, they can be the person seeking justice for somebody who's been impacted, or they can be the person that is trying to defend somebody that is the guilty party, but is trying to absolve them of consequence for the harm that they've caused. Now, which type of lawyer is that? Now, the same person in one case can be the one that is seeking justice for somebody, but in the next case they take on, they could be the one that's trying to absolve somebody of consequence for their harm that they've caused. So where's the integrity? What kind of lawyer becomes a judge? And what these judges then do, they facilitate the game of back and forth, because when there's a problem in life, the way of dealing with a problem in life is that you assess the situation, you assess what's gone on, you assess the dynamics of it, and you go, well, clearly you're the one that's in the wrong there. You're the one that's caused some harm. Now you've got an obligation to make that right, and here's how we're going to do it. You solve a problem, don't you? That's the way you deal with problems in this world, but not legal. Okay, the legal is a construct, which is a game of extraction facilitated by these jumped up so-called judges who manufacture the back and forth across the net in the court of you are directed to do this and that costs you, shelling you, your lawyer, £3,000, and then they play it over the court to that lawyer, and you now need to shell your lawyer £3,000 for them to play the return, and the game of back and forth, which lasts 2 or 3 years, fucks everybody up, extracts all the money for the lawyers, and then we make a decision based on what the law says, and the law's variable. The law, if you go and ask what the law is about anything to a lawyer, nobody knows. Nobody knows, because it's all what the judge thinks it is and how he interprets it. It's variable. That alone should set the alarm bells thinking. It depends who the law is being applied to as to what the law is. And I need to wake you all up to that, because at the moment the population wakes up to the construct, you'll see what the corruption is that we live within. It's an entirely corrupt construct that has been designed that way. It's been designed that way for 600 or 800 years, where we've got this notion of the British Empire, whereby what we did as a country, I say we, what certain wealthy individuals who benefited from the situation did, oh no, that wasn't illegal. If we did anything like that, that would be illegal. They did do that and gained equivalent of millions, billions of the day, but that wasn't illegal. And what defines who was legal and illegal is the system that they created with the judges that they have, and then this constructed argument of representatives proposing the legal arguments. Okay, and that is essentially, to get justice, you have to enter that bullshit system. And what we have in terms of the bullshit of it all is when this case gets put before a court and a judge, they'll be considering things such as the economic impact. Oh, how does this affect the economy? Who does this impact if we apply the appropriate consequence here? Because the consequence for fraud is imprisonment. It's a criminal offence and it is punishable by imprisonment. And what it also would be is significant amounts of compensation to be paid to a significant number of people. Huge, literally huge, astronomical sums of money. Where's that coming from? Who does that impact? How does that impact the economy? Now, what the British court system will be doing, it will be assessing the economic impact. Well, what does the sport of Formula One bring into the UK economy? Well, the sport of Formula One, its turnover is how many billion? Of which, how much gets paid in tax to the UK purse? How many people are employed in the UK associated with the sport of Formula One, both in the factories of the teams that are based in the UK, so all of the people living in the UK that are employed by the Formula One teams, all got given jobs, all then paying tax, and also these little subsidiary factories that are manufacturing the components for these Formula One teams. How many people are employed in that? And also, how much mind conditioning does it do to the population when you get 400,000 people transfixed to an event, all waving their flags, going, yay, we're having a lovely time. Bread and circuses, it's got its impact, hasn't it? So the judges will be looking at all the impact. Who does this harm? What decision are we going to make here? Rather than just assess, have these people lied about what's taking place here? Yes, they have. Are they lying about what is possible before this pretend error happens, which constructs the final event that excites the children? Yes, they're lying. Is there a way of actually writing this? Yes, the Stewart Appeal. What happened there? Oh, well, that was entirely corrupt as well. Oh, this is an entire contrivance, isn't it? Yeah, Yeah. So no. What we'll get instead is legal. We'll get those people in wigs and capes trying to absolve perpetrators of consequence for their crime. That's the construct. And if I can find it here, yeah, it's this one. I couldn't have articulated it any better than this. Okay, somebody that is the person on Instagram. Um, they put some great stuff out there, and if you're on Instagram, go and follow that one, the Tiny Pod 258. And the manner in which that they've just articulated this is superb. The systems were built to exploit innocent people and protect power. Protect power. Understand that. So, police, judicial systems, law, government, banking, and lending. All institutions had built in impunity for whoever can pay or has sway. Let that sink in. Let that sink in, because we're going to go to the media side of it now, all right? Because that has become part of it. That has become part of the system. The media is the mind conditioning aspect of it, because what you have to do is you have to manufacture the consent of the population. You have to mind condition them to believe things to be a certain way. And that is the role of the media. And that is what the British Broadcasting Corporation do. That is the tool of the establishment to mind condition the masses to believe the agenda that is being put before us. Oh, the reason this is happening like this is because of this, is what they tell you. They don't want you to see the real construct, that they are doing things that are benefiting them and them alone, which is having a detrimental impact on the rest of the population. So they use the mind conditioning machine, the likes of the BBC, to pretend it to be a certain way. And they've got their systems in place which enable that. So reading through that again, the systems were built to exploit innocent people and protect power. Police, judicial systems, law, a variable. Why is law a variable? Why can nobody tell you exactly what the law is? Why do we have to have a 4-year back and forth at an expense of millions of pounds to the arguers to determine the difference between right and wrong within the context of a given situation? Oh, legally, this is the system to be manipulated, isn't it? That's exactly what it is. Okay, because determining the difference between right and wrong within the context of a given situation, it's not difficult. We can all do that if you've got integrity. If you're removing your own personal desires, your own personal agenda, you can assess a situation and determine the difference between right and wrong. Oh, but is that the way the law works? And the answer is no. No, it doesn't, because it's a corrupt construct built to protect power. Government, exactly the same. You given the illusion of choice, when really you don't have that choice. Banking and lending, they're tools along with the media. All institutions had built-in impunity for whoever can pay or has sway. So Formula One is going to have sway, and also they're going to be able to pay. They'll throw millions at their legal argument, which the court will facilitate. The judge, who oversees the game of back and forth, what they will do, they will obviously drag out that game of back and forth to enable their industry chums to cream as much as that money as possible. Yes, now we must perform this legal procedure. Okay, now that you've given your lawyer £12 million for them performing that legal procedure, now we must perform the next legal procedure. Now you've got to pay your lawyers another £12 million over the next 3 months for them to perform that legal maneuver. Once they've been accredited by the bar to be deemed competent enough to maintain the illusion in the performance area of the court and be handed their wig and their cape and their gown, and if you're the judge, the ladies' shoes and tights as well, so that you don't shatter the illusion of the facade. That's the way it works, sadly. That is the way it works. But like I say, if you're on Instagram, go and check out that content creator, the Tiny Pod 258. Okay, some absolutely quality stuff there. So back to that. That's the situation. Okay, that is the situation whereby the case hasn't been taken forward yet. What I will be exposing on here, I'll be taking you through the process of what has happened with the Felipe Massa case, which is entirely a facade. You have two legal teams and a judge assessing the merits of the legal arguments, and yet neither of the legal teams nor the judge so far. I've only read through about 124 points of the 215 points made, or whatever it is, by the judge's assessment. And so far in that, the judge hasn't identified who the real victims of the situation were. By the FIA and Bernie Ecclestone seeking to cover up the cheating by the Renault team, the judge uses words such as skullduggery. Skullduggery? Well, that's called fraud. Skullduggery, depending what your interpretation of the law is and how you're going to apply the law, whether you're going to call it a crime or whether you're going to call it skullduggery, like buggery. Yeah, and he's not able to identify that Bernie Ecclestone and the FIA have conspired to defraud the world by concealing a fraud, which is a crime, and by not taking the appropriate action of disqualifying cheats, which is what you are required to do when you are the governing body for a sport. It's your responsibility to disqualify the cheats. And the legal argument being put forward by one of the sets of lawyers is, well, is their responsibility to disqualify the cheats? Do they have the jurisdiction? Or does the British court have the jurisdiction to say whether or not the FIA should be disqualifying the cheats? It's all legal, everybody, right? This is the kind of cunts that they are, right? And they'll have a 3 or 4 year back and forth over that, trying to defend the indefensible. And not a single one of them seems to be able to identify that what you should have done is not defraud everybody by trying to hide the fact that somebody cheated. You should have done the right thing, which is disqualifying the cheats. By doing so, that would have elevated Nico Rosberg to his very first Grand Prix victory. By not doing that, you've impacted his career. Rather than be declared a Grand Prix winner of his 50th Grand Prix, it took him until his 111th Grand Prix before he won one. That has a knock-on effect to his career. That would have had a knock-on effect to his season-long bonus, any sponsorship deals that he had, personal sponsorship, any bonuses he might have got through being a race winner from them sponsors, any future contracts from that point onwards that he may have signed, any employment opportunities that he may have had from that point onwards. It also impacted drivers within the Drivers' Championship by Alonso keeping hold of the 10 points that he was handed for that race, which should have been stripped from him, impacting the overall World Championship for that season. Those drivers, their careers were impacted by that. Season-long bonuses, future contracts, all impacted by that. By not disqualifying the Renault team and making an example of them for cheating, that impacted the 6 other teams in the championship that finished below them. The finishing position then would have dictated the prize money that each of those teams would have achieved, okay, from the prize money pot. And it could well be that the difference in prize money that these teams then achieved, they'd have all been shunted up a position in the Constructors' Championship, and that could have meant something like an additional $10 million or £10 million in prize money per team for finishing a place higher in that Constructors' Championship. Now, if the employees of each of those teams, and there might be 1,000 employees per team, if their contracts were such that they got an annual bonus that was linked to the prize money that each of those teams achieved by their finishing position in the championship, that's impacted at least 6,000 people and their earnings. Are either of the legal teams able to identify that? Is the judge able to identify that? This is supposedly sold to us under the guise of the justice system. But Judge J is an expert. He got a first at university in jurisprudence, actually trying to determine what the law actually is and what sort of things we should base the law on, what considerations we need to have when we're applying the law, and who it should apply to, and what ideologies the law should be. Manipulators. And that is what the legal construct actually is. It's not pure, okay, because pure and factually, Formula One is a criminal organisation. Each of those perpetrators are criminals. They are not only complicit with, they are an accomplice to fraud, defrauding the entire population. That is a fact. That is a fact. That is a statement of fact. They are an accomplice to, a key member of, being a part of a fraud. You think that is libelous? The reason that nobody has had a lawsuit against me is because what I say is not libelous. It's libel if you are making something up that is incorrect, when you are defaming somebody, making up something that is harmful to somebody that isn't true. Nobody's coming with any lawsuits against me. There is a reason why, is because it is true. That is categorically what these people are guilty of. However, getting a British court to rule that is not going to be straightforward, because the entire construct is there to manipulate outcomes. And the only way that you can hold them to account is by making the public aware of exactly what is going on. The public won't be aware because my channel is less than 9,000 people now. The moment I start talking about other things going on in this world, which are atrocities, your approval rating goes down. And from being able to reach an audience of 2,000 to 3,000 per video, now it's down in the 300s, 300 to 400s per video. The mystery formula dictates how many people get to hear you. So that's the way it's going to be. The mainstream media is not going to expose it. And as I'm going to go on to now, even if they did expose it, they would expose it using their narrative, using their lies to convince people of it being a certain way, which is not the way it is. The only way of it being authentic would be to have a live streamed court case where I would go up against the corruption and call out real time exactly what was taking place to wake people up. But do you think they'd want to allow that? Of course they wouldn't. To show people the true level of their corruption and manipulation, this is why they don't have cameras in the courtroom, because they can conceal their contrivance and their manipulation. The entire construct is just that, a corrupt construct. I'm the victim of this. I've experienced it firsthand. Successive failures of judges that were dealing with my case failed due to incompetence and neglect, laziness, lack of ability, lack of identifying the jeopardy of the situation, that I was seeking the intervention of the courts to protect not only my interests, but also the interests of the other party, who was acting with such malevolence that they neglected not only their own, but also the best interests of children. And I was seeking the intervention of the court to protect all of that. The court just tossed it off, making errors. They caused and enabled further harm to the situation. And the moment that I cited the court for that, both HMCTS, His Majesty's Courts and Tribunal Service, and the judges for their failures, further judges then contrived a false narrative to the case. The case got lost for 6 months when I cited 4 judges for misconduct in public office. It then got handed to a 5th judge who ignored all of the failures, ignored the citing of his 4 judicial colleagues for their fraud, their manipulation and their failures, ignored all of that, refused to recuse himself because he'd got a conflict of interest. Now, he'd got a vested interest in ruling the outcome of the case to protect HMCTS and his judicial colleagues, refused to do that. And it was only when we got to a 6th judge who appeared from the outside to be not part of that corrupt cabal. Though he, after 20 months, ruled that, oh no, I didn't have a case. You have no case, therefore, the judiciary and HMCTS, they're not liable for anything because they didn't do anything wrong. And I can prove categorically all that I'm saying there and demonstrate all of the things that they did wrong and all of their fraud. And I will be doing that. But until the justice service is held to account, then we would be taking this case to a corrupt service of manipulation to try and get justice, which you're not going to get. And the entire thing's a facade because Shabana Mahmood was head of the Ministry of, they call it the Ministry of Justice. She was the head of that, and she ignored every single communication. My Member of Parliament refused to intervene as this is ongoing. I'm calling it out real time. These are doing this, and this is illegal. And I'm appealing to them to stop doing it, and they carry on doing it illegally. And my MP refuses to intervene. This is part of the construct of manipulation. So I found that out firsthand. Now, obviously, what we're going to get is Johnny Wankrag in the comments section, who know more than me. They know more about me than I do. They know more about my case and how it impacted me and everybody else than I did. And they'll like to come here to project that I'm obviously so bad. I'm the abuser. I'm the one that's caused all the problems, because they know all of this. This is what they'll come with their comments to seek to discredit and, convince people in the comment section of how little I know about the situation. Because that's what their agenda is. They like Max Verstappen so much that they want to come here to project. Now, the thing is, with any of these people, if their lives were impacted in such a way where they needed the intervention of this court system, they'd be impacted in the same way. What I seek to do is to try and change things for the benefit of everybody, so that they're not impacted in that way should they ever suffer in life and need the intervention. But they don't care about that. Their agenda is all about trying to do me down because of their lust for Max Verstappen. This is the idiocy of the wank rag troll boy that we get coming to the comments section. So hopefully that's just given some of you a bit of a understanding of where we're at. There are going to be moves being made this year, but it's just a lot of things revolve around timing. We're seeing what is happening in the world at the moment, and this is about the waking people up, and it is about accountability, and it's about people waking up to just how corrupt things are, and the events that are taking place are serving to do that. And it's about when people are ready for certain things. If I just hit everybody with the information of what I'm going to evidence to you, then people won't believe it. But the more you see behind the curtain by everything else that's taking place in this world, when you see what I'm evidencing, which will be irrefutable, you'll see. You'll see. And for those of you that maybe just have your skepticism about what I'm saying, by all means, you don't have to trust me yet. Okay, don't trust me. I'll evidence it. Like I've evidenced everything I've said about Abu Dhabi 2021, even though the trolls will say, oh, that's not evidence. Well, check out every single one of my videos and you'll see that everything that I've said, there's the evidence of it. But think to the post office case where the postmasters were defrauded. They were accused of stealing from the post office because their books weren't balancing each day, and they were saying that these postmasters have taken money. Many of them were then had criminal charges pressed against them. Several got convicted of essentially theft from the post office. Some went to prison. This caused some of them to take their own lives. At least 555 of them were impacted by that. The post office lied. Fujitsu, the software supplier, lied. Everybody lied. You didn't hear anything about it. You didn't hear about it in the media. You didn't hear about it from government. You only heard about it after the event, after the court drama had taken place, and the TV companies decided only then they were going to do a dramatisation of it, which caused national outrage here in the UK, where it exposed the corruption. But they didn't expose the corruption in the manner it needed to. They didn't expose the government officials, the members of parliament that actually concealed it and turned a blind eye to it and didn't hold the post office to account, hold the CEOs of the post office to account, those in management that were guilty of committing a fraud whereby they were taking members of the post office, the postmasters, to court and criminalising them, despite it being the post office themselves that was guilty of the failures. Where was the accountability? Where was the payment of the compensation from the individuals that concealed the crime, from the company that supplied the software? And why, when it came to the settlement of that claim, was the legal process such that the legal play that one of the teams, so the team that is trying to absolve the post office of consequence for their fraud, their crime, their criminalisation of postmasters when they were the guilty party. So they've got their lawyers to represent them and at great costs. Right? They tried to play the legal card, the legal device of extending the proceedings by at least another year by claiming the judge that was overseeing the case had a vested interest or some sort of interest in the case, so therefore wasn't fit to judge it. So that's when the judge recused himself in that case. So what is the standard of our His Majesty's Courts and Tribunal Service to even put a judge in fucking play judging on that case if the judge could even be accused of that in the first place? What is the efficacy of that service? Well, it's clearly piss poor. Who's accountable for that? Right? But no, the legal play will play the mystery potion card of this judge is not fit for purpose, and what that will do, that will mean a delay of the case by it. Well, why would that be the case? Oh, it's going to take a new judge a year to understand this case. Really? Didn't take us that long to understand the drama, did it? Right? It's going to take the new judge a year, and then we have to schedule it. Right? So what that's going to do is you're going to then have to, the other team of lawyers, they're going to want paying over that year, and the postmasters, the victims, can't afford that. So you try and deter them from making their case and getting justice by trying to bankrupt them from getting justice. That's the legal construct by these corrupt cunts who want to manipulate it that way. Okay, so that's one of the things that they constructed, and what they ultimately ended up doing was some sort of out of court settlement of about 50 odd million pounds. Okay, which was the post office admitting some liability to the tune of 50 odd million pounds, despite all the harm that they'd done to these people's lives. But of that settlement, 40 odd million of it went in legal fees to the lawyers. The whores there, just extracting all the money. The victims, got 20% of the claim, and the whores hoovered to pull the money. That's the value of the work that they carry out for making their argument. That's the kind of country that exists in this country, sadly. So, but like I say, you wouldn't have heard it about, in quite those terms via the media, because they don't want you to actually understand it as clear cut as that. Okay, let's go through the BBC. Now, this Alex Pretty execution, right, which was an execution. You should have all seen the footage that's available on social media now of a man who was using his phone to film what was going on. We saw ICE agents coming over, initially shoving a woman. He then tried to stand in the ICE agent's way to protect the woman, to shield the woman from that. He was then wrestled to the ground, pinned down by a number of these ICE thugs that don't do due process, don't identify correctly like it is required to do if you are a law enforcement officer. No, they are thugs in balaclavas using illegitimate force on the civilian population, and they wrestled him to the ground. Somebody then removed his gun from him, and then around about 10 rounds of ammunition were unloaded into him. The accounts that you'll hear was that he was brandishing his gun and he was a threat to them. That's not the truth. We can all see that. We can see that with our own eyes. Now, what we get here, let me see if it's this one. You've got Bovino here. Border Patrol commander account of shooting doesn't match the videos. At a press conference, Border Control Tactical Unit Commander Gregory Bovino portrayed shooting victim Alex Pretty as a dangerous assassin intent on a massacre of law enforcement. This is the kind of shit that liars come out with. There needs to be consequence for these liars, because what they are seeking to do and what they are guilty of is the crime of seeking to pervert the course of justice. Justice is assessing the situation and determining the difference between right and wrong within the context of the given situation. We have the video of what took place. This person is lying about what is taking place. That is a perversion. That is seeking to pervert people's understanding of exactly what is really happening for an agenda. That is seeking to pervert the course of justice. That is a criminal offence. That is punishable by imprisonment. Now, what did the BBC do? Let's have a look.
The family of a man killed by federal immigration officers in Minneapolis say he cared deeply about people and was upset by President Trump's immigration crackdown in his city. Alex Jeffrey Pretty, who was 37, was an intensive care nurse for retired soldiers. While he did have a gun, CBS News, the BBC's partner, stated...
The BBC, right, rather than focus on the fact that this guy was executed, pinned down, and shot probably 10 times at point blank range, the BBC, whilst he did have a gun,
in the US notes that US Border Patrol officers did not specify if he had brandished it.
Our partners, they do note that they didn't specify whether he'd brandished it or not. He had a gun, but what we don't know is whether he'd brandished it or not. We couldn't verify that. This is the BBC talking about it with an agenda.
Soldiers. While he did have a gun, CBS News, the BBC's partner station in the US, notes that US Border Patrol officers did not specify if he had brandished it.
So the way the BBC does it, they've got the footage. They have to go, oh, our partner broadcaster over there, they note that the Border Patrol didn't specify whether he'd brandished it or not. Why do you need to do that, BBC? Why don't you just say, well, here's the video of it, and they've pinned him down and taken it from him. He hasn't brandished it. No, but the BBC have to say, our partners over there, they note that Border Patrol didn't say whether he brandished it or not, but he'd got a gun. How is the information being given?
Mr. Pretty's family members say he owned a handgun and had a permit.
He's got a gun, he's got a gun, he's got a gun.
To carry a concealed handgun.
He's got a gun.
He's the second person shot dead by federal immigration agents in Minneapolis this month. Now, the BBC has verified these images.
The BBC has verified. Oh, this is authentic, everybody. This is the BBC who's verified this. But they cut off. They've got lots of this to verify, and they only show us what they want to show us. Now, I'm not saying that they should show us the slaying of a man, the execution. That is rather graphic and rather disturbing. But what they do show fits a certain narrative, and we'll go through and see.
Images you're seeing showing them.
So what we're seeing is, if the guy comes into screen, it's the one that removes his gun, hopefully.
Moments leading up.
This guy here is the guy. So the rest are wearing these tactical vests. You know, these real men, yeah, that like wanking away at the computers and playing Call of Duty. You real men, you lads are, you know, playing toy soldiers, thinking you can oppress people. I mean, on your own, and every single one of these cunts would get smashed. But no, there's a gang of them. There's a pack of them, isn't there? So it makes them hard men. They can pin somebody down and then start laying into them when they're on the floor, throwing in cheap shots. Real men. But this guy is going to come and take his gun off of him. You know, just wearing his jeans and his coat. Clearly a law enforcement officer. Clearly identifiable by what he is. But no, you can't identify him because they're all wearing masks, everybody. Now, you know, imagine it was a group of Mexican people wearing masks, pinning somebody down, and then shooting them in the head. Would there be like a manhunt, and then you know, a requirement for these people to be imprisoned or maybe be sentenced to death? What if it was like a group of 6 or 8 black men that had like gone onto a street and wearing masks, and they just went across somebody and pinned them onto the floor and then shot them 10 times in the head? Would you be demanding that those people would be held to justice? You would, wouldn't you? Yeah, you would. There'd be a national manhunt for these people, and the demand for them to be either imprisoned or sentenced to death, wouldn't you, in America? No, that's not the same energy here, is it? Not the same energy. These are allowed to do it.
To the fatal shooting, masked agents are grappling him.
So this guy here, bend over, you can see his arse there. All right. Masked agents are grappling him. Let's just, have we missed anything?
Moments leading up to the fatal.
This cunt here is laying one in there, punching him when he's on the floor.
Shooting, masked agents are grappling him to the ground.
So focus on this guy in the black jeans now.
Before several shots are fired. This video appears to show.
Oh, we've cut away. We've cut away. Funny that, isn't it? Thanks for that, BBC.
Show him before he was shot by an immigration officer. It's not clear at this stage how.
This video shows something that is not really that. It's not linked to. Well, I say it's linked. It's all part of the same thing, but it's not. It's not part of pinning him down and shooting him and executing him, is it? But you felt the need to cut to this one, didn't you, BBC?
How much time passes between the video and the shooting? It's not clear at this stage how much time passes between the video and the shooting.
It's not clear. They've verified it, but it's not clear how much time passes, according to the BBC. They've verified it. They've cut from one video to the next, but it's not clear to the BBC. Funny that, isn't it?
You can see one agent puts a hand on the man's torso and walks him backwards towards the pavement. Then in a separate video, shots are fired.
But it's not clear. What about this one? What's clear in this video, BBC? You see what there is a video from the car that's actually just the first car back. You know, so you can see over there, bonnet, at what these ICE agents do. Well, we've got the third car back here, haven't we? I think. You see, what you've even got here within these psychos, these ICE agents. Yes, they're all thugs. Yes, they're all rat boys, wank rags. Okay, not real men. Okay, because real men protect people. These get off on oppressing people, bullying people. It gives them the sense of power. You know, they're the kind of cunts that like going to the comments section to bully people. You know, the kind of cunts that get off on bullying your children at school. Yeah, that's the kind of cunt boy that we're talking about. They're real men. That makes them feel big, right? But you can see even amongst these, they're aware that they've got some fucking psychos amongst them that are fucking just shooting somebody in the head from point blank range. They're going, fuck me, what the fuck is happening here? Some people are just fucking psychopaths. Shall we replay how many shots? Because you know, I get accused of disinformation. Can we count the shots? I counted at least 10.
Protests have been taking place around the site of the shooting. Law enforcement clashing there with demonstrators and using what appears to be tear gas on the crowd.
Well, okay, what appears to be tear gas. Thanks for that.
What I've been seeing is that the community has been...
The BBC's chosen somebody wearing a mask. Okay, how does that make you feel? Okay, makes you a little bit wary if somebody else is wearing a mask. If they're wearing a mask, are they doing something that's a bit dodgy, so they're concealing their identification? Is that why you've chosen that particular person? Have you chosen somebody of brown skin because you know that people don't like people with brown skin, so they're straight away going to go, oh, well, deserved it anyway. You know, you've got the wank rags in your audience that got that kind of mentality. Is that what it is, BBC?
Talking to each other as real people, and these people have come in and been hurting us. They've been attacking us when we've been doing nothing but following the law, peacefully observing, and then they decide to gang up and kill one of us.
What have you been hearing about what happened this morning?
What happened this morning is they tried to go into a restaurant. The restaurant didn't let them in, and a peaceful observer was recording them, and they decided to get aggressive with that peaceful observer. And then when there were 6, 8 of them on top of one person, they decided to shoot them in cold blood.
Democratic officials have...
Democratic officials. The blue people of the state say this, but the red people might say something else. Look at the way that they want to frame that. We have to say, well, people, because they've got this agenda, because they represent this group of people, say this. Do you need to do that, BBC? Or can you just talk about the facts based on the video evidence that everybody can see? We have to say it's democratic.
to shoot them in cold blood.
Those who are against the Republican Party of Trump.
Democratic officials have reacted furiously to the shooting.
Oh, it's just the Democratic officials that have reacted furiously, not everybody else. Republican officials wouldn't have done. It's just the Democratic ones. BBC? Is that the way you want to present it? Filthy scum.
Governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, described the incident as sickening and called on President Trump to end the deployment of ICE agents.
Thank God we have video, because according to DHS, these 7 heroic guys took an onslaught of a battalion against them or something. It's nonsense, people. It is nonsense and it's lies. So my confidence is this, Minnesotans. You know who you are, and you demonstrate it every single day, and we damn sure know who these people are. The American public knows, and this needs to be the event that says enough.
These things try and get us to question our own eyes. We clearly see shit, and they try and fuck with your head to make you question what you actually see. It's all a construct.
Thousands of ICE agents have been deployed to Minneapolis since the start of the month, and the mayor of the city, Jacob Frey, likened the federal operation to an invasion.
I just saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death. How many more residents, how many more Americans need to die or get badly hurt for this operation to end?
Who's responsible? Who sent those agents in? Who created those forces? Who expanded those forces to perform that role? Who trained those forces? Who's given them authority? Who is holding them accountable for their conduct and their crimes? The book stops with somebody. The individual perpetrators need holding to account, but those people that are in charge of those organisations get held to account because they're ultimately responsible for the conduct of their operatives. Those government officials that made the policy to enact that, they are criminally responsible for the forces that they've set about on their nation. Who's holding them to account? Oh, legally, the legal manipulation is going to hold who to account? Not them. Not them. But like I say, if you were part of a mob of either 6 or 8 Mexicans that had done that, or 6 or 8 black men that had done that, yeah, you'd be on death row now.
How many more lives need to be lost before this administration realizes that a political and partisan narrative is not as important as American values?
The US Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said the man who was shot.
Oh, so we need what he said and what she said, do we? Is this the best you can do, BBC?
Had a criminal history.
She said he'd got a criminal history. Have you verified that, BBC? BBC's done the verification. She said he's criminal. What was his crimes? Because what appears to be being put out is he got no more than a parking ticket. He's got a gun. He was a criminal, is what the BBC have to present. They said enough of that.
To criticise Jacob Frey and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
This situation and this tragedy did not have to happen. Our law enforcement are doing everything that they can to protect the public. We're praying.
Our law enforcement is doing everything that they can to protect the public. Now, that's not what the BBC verified video would display, because that verified video would display what we all saw, which was this ICE agent, this little cunt boy, coming along and shoving a woman to the floor. And the guy that they then executed standing in his way to try and protect her. But this cunt is trying to present that, it's the law enforcement is doing the protection. No, you've unleashed a band of thugs. You've unleashed a band of killer thugs on the population, a civilian population. You cunt. And you are now trying to gaslight everybody to believe that they're the victims of the situation.
For this deceased loved one's family and friends, but we also recognize that the Minnesota governor and the Minneapolis mayor need to take a long, hard look in.
Oh, it's the Minneapolis governor and mayors. They're part of the problem. Oh, the Democrats. We're the Reds, they're the Blues. It's the Blues problem here, is what the BBC are quite happy to platform on their channel.
In the mirror. They need to evaluate their rhetoric, their conversations, and their encouragement of such violence against our citizens and our law enforcement officers.
So the BBC are platforming this cunt, right? This cunt, projecting that it's the mayor and the governor who've got to take responsibility for these killings of their citizens due to the language that they use. And the BBC platforms that.
It's now the middle of the night in Minneapolis, but people are still gathered at the scene of the shooting. Our correspondent Tom Bateman is there.
Well, this is the spot where Alex Pretty was shot dead, and you can see now a lot of people here. I've seen hundreds come and go over the course of the last few hours. People laying flowers, they've come to light candles and laying them, writing messages, chanting Alex Pretty's name. And I spoke to one woman who described an atmosphere of fear over recent weeks as ICE agents have been carrying out these raids, and saying that she felt she just had to come down here when she saw the video of him being killed. So it was at this spot. There are now multiple videos of the angles here, and I'm going to turn you round down here because a much bigger protest gathered.
There are now multiple videos. Oh, but you've done your verification in the earlier part. This was a few minutes ago. Yeah? You couldn't work it out, what was going on. But well, this could be this. You couldn't display to the people. No.
And there have been hundreds of protesters out.
We're still trying to work it out. He said this, she said that. The BBC is being balanced here, everybody. We're just giving you a balanced view of what people say might have gone on here. No, we don't need that. Okay, what we need is the evidence of what went on and a clear description of what went on. Look at the construct. The construct, the back and forth, the legal argument, the he said, she said. The construct to try and absolve people of consequence for their crimes. And it's within the media. It's all part of the conditioning. Understand that? Some of these things are very simple. We saw what happened. We know it's wrong. We know what these thugs did. That constitutes a fucking execution. Don't try and convince us otherwise.
During the course of today, tributes there, but a lot more anger being expressed further down the street. And that talks to the way that you now have this extremely polarized narrative about what happened here.
It's a polarized narrative. They say this, they say that, say the BBC. It's a polarized narrative because the BBC can't tell you how it is. No, they can show you the different sides, but one of them sides is a fucking lie. But the BBC's platforming that, presenting a polarized narrative.
Today, the Trump administration publishing the pictures of the 9mm handgun that they say
that was ripped away from this guy, that he wasn't brandishing, that was in his belt and somebody ripped away from him. And they're trying to use that as validation for slaughtering somebody.
Alex Pretty had. They say that he approached.
He had a gun, by the way. In case you didn't know, he had a gun. The BBC want you to know that he had a gun.
Officers and had that gun.
Oh, Trump's administration say he approached officers. Does the evidence say that? Why are you telling us what Trump says when the evidence doesn't display that? Oh, the judge will have to decide. Well, they said that he approached officers, so we have to take that into consideration. No, you don't, because it didn't happen. That's the fucking lie. And for the fact you're lying, you're perverting the course of justice, and you go to fucking prison because of that. Oh, but the BBC have to pretend that they're balanced.
Though in the video, of course, there is no evidence so far to...
Oh, there's no evidence so far. They say, but there doesn't appear to be any evidence of that. Oh, why is that? Because it didn't happen. Oh, but we can't say that because legally we don't know whether it happened or not. We don't know how they want to try and manipulate this to absolve the criminals of consequence for their crimes. Understand the construct?
suggest that there was anything that potentially would have made those officers feel their lives were in danger in terms of warning that in the video, of course, there is no evidence so far to suggest that there was anything that potentially would have made those officers feel their lives were in danger.
In the video, there's no evidence to suggest that, anything's happening that would suggest that those officers were in danger. Yet. But we don't know. We do.
In terms of what you can see in the video. But
yeah, but see what we're doing here?
Of course, all of that is still being looked at and determined.
But it's still being looked at and determined. We can't say, we can't tell you the truth.
And at the same time, you have the state governor, Tim Walz, you have the local officials and the mayor here accusing those immigration officials of having terrorised this city. That was a word that one of the city...
Oh, they've made the accusation. Well, what's the evidence of that? Well, what they've done, they've come in and this is the second person that they've murdered. Yeah, I think that's not just an accusation, that's a fact that they've murdered two civilian people. Oh, but they've accused them of terrorising the population. What else were you going to call it then? Oh, just an accusation.
The officials used here today, continuing to call for ICE to get out, to be withdrawn from this city because of the second fatality in the space of this month alone. And so what you're seeing now is a standoff between the Trump administration on one side and the protesters and the state.
You're seeing a standoff between the red team and the blue team. Now, the thing is, we're all conditioned to believe that this style of reporting is normal. That's the sad thing. We're all conditioned to accept that receiving information this way about an incident is just normal. That's the way that they do it. You need to start seeing through it. You need to start seeing just how bullshit this style of trying to convey what happened to people is. There's an agenda behind doing it this way. It is designed to make you feel about it a certain way, designed to confuse you, designed to make you think, well, was this guy partially at fault? He was carrying a gun. They do say that he was a threat to these law enforcement officers. Did he deserve it? Because, he's carrying a gun. They're saying that he could have been a threat to them. He could have massacred the ICE agents. The government's saying that he was a threat. Did he deserve to be shot? Well, maybe he should just comply. They're doing it on purpose because they want to divide you. They want some of you to think that. But those people that they want to think like that, if it was one of you, where you were there and these ICE agents had come and shoved somebody who you care about, your mum, your sister, your wife, your girlfriend, your child, had that Billy Big Bollocks ICE agent, the big man, little rat boy there, come and shove them that you care about, and you stood in the way and go, hey, back the fuck up. And then they pinned you to the ground and shot you 10 times in the head. Would that be okay then? Would that be okay? No, it wouldn't be. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm saying something, not as a red versus blue. I'm saying something which is for everybody, right? Everybody. Yeah? Every single one of us. The protection of every single one of us. But I realise those of you that are orange because you like Max Verstappen and maybe you like Donald Trump. Yeah, you like Max, so therefore you want to vilify me. I get it, lads. I get it.
Authorities here on the other, a request from the city now to send in some state National Guard troops because the police themselves are concerned about their ability to continue to keep control in the streets of Minneapolis.
So that's the police now struggling to keep control. Wonder why? Wonder who's caused the civil unrest. Now I've had comments saying, oh, it was a highly stressful situation. Well, who's causing the stress? You're sending in a militia into a civilian population, armed, masked, tracking people down, abducting people that are, some of them are American citizens that have got a full right to be there, and yet these ICE agents are just grabbing hold of them, using illegitimate force, throwing them in the back of vehicles and driving them away without proper due process. There always has to be due process for any of this, and they're ignoring all of it. They're allowed to ignore all of it. Who's allowing them? And when people are recording that, those people that are recording those crimes then get set about by that militia and then murdered by that militia. That will never be okay. And it's currently happening in America. What if it starts happening in your town or city? What if you're the kind of person that is calling out the things that are going wrong in this world, and you're saying something against the government and how they're doing something? Now you become the problem and you become the victim of that. Now the police are going to shut you the fuck up. You become the threat because you're exposing the crimes of their regime. Yeah, that's called totalitarianism. Hitler did a thing like that, shutting down the people that opposed the sorts of things that he was doing. Yeah. Now, just before I end this video, I'm going to move on to something which is, again, exactly the same as this, but it's also displaying, it's also going to evidence the bullshit of the mind-conditioned legal kind of aspect of it. Let me just go to the right clip. Okay, it's not this clip, but it's an interesting little caption there. Capitalism is so efficient that 12 people own more wealth than half of the humanity. They've convinced us all that we should all in life, let's all play life like a game of Monopoly. You too could be the winner where you own everything and you live like a king, and everybody else, well, ultimately they're the losers because you're the winner. You could be one of them. Yeah, you're not going to be. All right. I know they've sold you on the dream, but you won't be. They've got the systems, they manipulate it for their power. I have used the other clip here saying that the system is built to exploit innocent people. They're exploiting you by convincing you that you can become a winner in the game, all right? But you can't be, okay? Because it's there to protect them. They've achieved that position of power within that system, and it's there to protect them, all right? And that's the way it will be. But don't worry about that. Let's go back to this point, which is what I'm talking about. The bullshit construct of legal. Listen to what this woman is saying.
New video analysis and court filing, and it's showing us something really much more disturbing about how Alex Pretty died. That's what a doctor says happened. ICE officers failed to check a pulse or begin CPR. This all went down in a sworn declaration. I read it. The physician describes a chaotic, violent scene where medical help was delayed as seconds slipped. The account is now fueling a lawsuit and intensifying scrutiny over federal use of force in Minneapolis and in cities around the country. So
there's a lawsuit about the federal use of force. Lawsuit, okay, what's the relevance of the lawsuit?
Declaration, so you know, is a written statement of facts something that somebody makes under penalty of perjury, meaning they're basically swearing, taking an oath, swearing it's true, and they can be prosecuted if...
Right, okay, so they're swearing an oath, yeah, we get that, but there's video of what actually happens, lawsuit, but we've got the evidence of what's actually happening, yeah?
Anything is untrue or if they're lying. It's similar to a testimony given in court, but written down instead of spoken in front of a judge.
Okay, yeah, we get that.
And this particular declaration comes from a pediatrician in Minneapolis who witnessed the entire incident on January 24th.
It comes from a pediatrician, so somebody that works in the medical profession. Okay, yeah.
2026, and here's what happened. I'm gonna read it. The doctor woke up to screaming and car horns. They looked outside, they saw ICE agents and they saw civilians and they were yelling at each other. One guy was standing by his car yelling at the ICE agents because he objected to them being in the city. He wasn't armed, he wasn't attacking anyone, he was just yelling.
So we need somebody's sworn testimony that we couldn't see, yeah? We couldn't see that with our own eyes. Legally, what does that mean?
Suddenly, an ICE agent shoved him to the ground. Then at least 4 agents pointed their guns at him and shot him 6 or 7 times. The doctor ran outside to help, but the ICE agents wouldn't let them through. They kept asking for a medical license while...
They kept asking for a medical license? Like that's got anything to do with it?
Alex lay there dying on the ground. Nobody was doing CPR. Nobody was helping him.
Nobody was doing CPR. What the fuck? You think this is all part of the legal case, do you? They've just unloaded 10 bullets into him. Now what? Oh, now, having tried to kill him by unloading 10 bullets into him, now you've got to try and pretend you're trying to save his life by doing CPR on him. Fucking ridiculous.
And when they finally let this doctor through, they found the victim had at least 5 gunshot wounds and no pulse. The doctor started CPR and administered that until paramedics arrived. So why is this significant? The declaration is part of a lawsuit against ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. Some people, Susan Tincher, John Beistman, and others are suing ICE. They're suing over ICE's use of force and civil rights violations. We don't know exactly who Susan and John are from this document, but they're the lead plaintiffs and they're representing themselves and others in similar situations here. And the doctor's declaration is critical.
The doctor's declaration is critical for the law case, for the legal back and forth that the judge needs to play out for the barristers to cream all the money out of this, right? The doctor's declaration is critical. Why is that then? We all saw that these fuckers executed him. Why is the doctor's declaration critical?
This is critical evidence because they're both honest and
because they're both honest and they're medical experts, because we all need to be honest and medical experts to determine what happened there. This is critical.
Medical expert. They can testify that the victim wasn't a threat.
Oh, because they're medical experts, they could testify that he's not a threat, right? Okay. Yeah, nobody else in the world could.
And that multiple agents shot him.
Yeah, because they're medical experts, they could testify that multiple agents, because the film doesn't show that, right?
Repeatedly, and that ICE didn't provide medical care afterwards.
And that ICE didn't provide medical care. No, they put 10 bullets in him and didn't provide medical care. And the doctors can confirm that, and this is critical. Yes, the judge will have to decide, are these expert witnesses to be able to tell us whether that happened or not legally. Oh, this is critical for the case, everybody. It's critical for the case. They have you believe that the facade that needs to be played out to determine guilt. What a load of bollocks, isn't it? What a load of bollocks.
And this is exactly the kind of evidence that you need to prove excessive force.
You need that kind of evidence to prove excessive force, according to the legal game, apparently. Not just the video of it actually happening. No, you need to get somebody who's a qualified medical professional who's able to determine that 4 guys at least put somebody down on the ground, and at least a couple of them shot him, bullets into him, and then they didn't provide medical care to him. Imagine that. Somebody putting 10 bullets into somebody and then not giving them medical care. And that's what you need in order to get a conviction. What a load of bollocks.
And civil rights violation. New video announcement.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. You see, the simplicity of it is there's a simple truth, isn't there? And that truth is evidenced by the multiple videos which all say the same thing. It's not as though it's been an AI generated situation. If there was only one video of it, then you could question the authenticity of that in this day and age. Sadly, that's again, this is the construct of the society we live in. But if everything is ultimately showing the same shit go down, then we've got to accept that that's what happened. And we then you look at that and go, well, clearly what is going on here? Who are the perpetrators? Who is the person that's at fault? Who are the people that are at fault? What's happening? What are the dynamics of the situation? What's appropriate? What's not? What we're going to do about it. That's all there is to it. It doesn't take that long to do that. Why do we need a legal battle to decide who did anything wrong, and therefore whether it was this that was wrong, whether it was that? We need to hear from the expert witnesses and verify whether they are expert witnesses and what qualifies them as an expert witness. Oh, and all of this costs millions, millions and millions to the lawyers and the lawyers and the lawyers. The construct. And were they guilty in the end? And did they get punished in the end? Oh, well, we don't know. We'll find that out in 4 years' time. It's a fuckery, isn't it? By design. By design. Systems are built to exploit innocent people, protect power, police, judicial systems, law, government, and banking and lending. All institutions had built-in impunity for whoever can pay or has sway. Thank you for your time.